And thank you all for coming out, joining us today. And I want to say a special thanks to the Senator for coming, and I know his heartfelt condolences to those that have lost their homes out there. Paul, thank you for coming as well. We just got through taking just an aerial tour of the Steiner Ranch area. Obviously one of the most heavily damaged neighborhoods in the immediate area of Austin, and pretty powerful visuals of individuals who've lost everything from the standpoint of their homes and possessions, and it was just important for the Senator and myself to get a first-hand view of the impact of these fires on our citizens' lives. And you get a pretty good perspective from the air about the area that's impacted, and the magnitude of these losses are pretty stunning. Some 1,000 homes that we've lost across the state. We're over 100,000 acres of new fires. Even with this tragedy, the good news is that there are no lives lost in these neighborhoods. Yesterday when we were in Bastrop, we saw the extent of damage that's suffered throughout this area of central Texas, and I made the comment that it's one of the meanest fires that I've ever seen, and what my characterization was that this fire, just the dark clouds of, whether it was a automobile or a home or a propane tank that had exploded, and you just don't, you see when we have fires of this type, you normally would see white smoke, and these, they're interspersed with substantial amounts of black smoke, which is unfortunately homes and people's possessions, lifetimes people's collections being lost. But again, no lives have been lost at this particular point in time. Across the state, we've had, as I shared with you, over 1,000 homes have been destroyed. We got a lot of Texans living in shelters now, living with friends, and a reflection of Texans taking care of Texans. It's what they do, living with friends and loved ones, and in some cases, rank strangers taking care of people they never met before. And it's a storyline that we've seen too many times across our state this year. Some 3.6 million acres now have been burned since fire season started in last December. That landmass is equal to approximately the size of the state of Connecticut. As these dry conditions persist, it's pretty easy to forget the potential devastation from one careless act, and as we have said a number of times over the past week, it bears repeating. Texans need to really be careful as they go outside in any activities that could cause a brush fire, and at this point we're just urging people to avoid any outdoor activity which could conceivably start a fire. It's just too dry to take any action that could cause one of these massive fires to get started. Over the past day, I've had a chance to meet with people caught in this wildfire's path, some who have lost everything, some who have not been able to go back into neighborhoods to know whether or not their homes, their possessions have been lost. And I've also had the opportunity, Senator, to talk to some of the bravest men and women that we have. That's our firefighters, emergency medical technicians, all these first responders who are making a difference in people's lives, defending property and lives. And I thank them for that. We're blessed in this state to have some of the most talented, most dedicated first responders in the nation. Unfortunately, they get a lot of practice, whether it's hurricanes or tornadoes. We still do have floods, but these wildfires have had their substantial impact on this state. We will continue to make sure that our state resources are available and are properly applied to help limit the damage to these massive wildfires. And again, I want to remind everyone to stay out of harm's way, follow instructions. When there is a call for evacuation, take it very seriously. Yes, your homes and your possessions are important, but there's nothing more important than people's lives. So stay tuned to the reports about where these wildfires are, what direction they're moving. Find your way to safety when one of these fires threaten your area. Now I'd like to ask Nim Kidd, he's our State's Director of Emergency Management, to come forward and just give you some quick details about the current status of the fires that we've got now. I think we're over 50 fires that we're managing from a state standpoint. And I want to remind people that's just the number of fires that the state is managing. We've got a substantial number of fires that the local fire departments are handling on their own. San Antonio yesterday, they had a 2-alarm blaze that they took care of themselves. And there's a lot of that going on across the state, fires that are being handled just by the local fire departments, volunteer firefighters across the state, working in conjunction with our paid firefighters. Let's open it up to any questions that those of you in the working press have for us. Yes, ma'am.
Did you say 1,000 homes across the state?
Yes.
And 100,000 acres?
Right. And we've got, just for, so we'll get as close to correct here as we can, 3.6 million acres since the fire season started, which was in December of 10. And over 1,000 homes, 100,000 acres plus, I think a little bit over 100,000, and probably fires that are ongoing right now or being just started just over the course of the last 24 hours that we haven't added to that. So, and I think it's really important, as long as this wind stays down, we're going to be substantially well served from the standpoint of containment. If these winds pick up again, all these little hot spots that we have not been able to put out have the potential of coming back and starting new sets of fires. So people need to, even though the weather's cooler by probably 30 degrees this morning, which is good from a standpoint of the conditions that these firefighters are having to operate in, if the wind does in fact pick back up this afternoon, which we suspect it may to some degree, hopefully not to the same wind speeds that we saw yesterday afternoon. So, Peggy? Right. Right. Listen, we've been multitasking in this state for a long time from the standpoint of being able to deal with multiple events. We're blessed to have some of the finest emergency management people in the business, Nim Kidd and the people around him. Our state coordination is as good as any state. I am regularly pointing to them from the standpoint of other states and saying, if you want to talk to some people that really know how to do this. As a matter of fact, as late as Hurricane Irene, I was talking to governors of northeastern states, and I know NIM was talking to their emergency management folks of just how do you deal with a hurricane, which they're not used to in that part of the country. Unfortunately, we've had to deal with our fair share. And again, droughts and wildfires and tornadoes and floods and hurricanes and often things that you can't practice for. Space shuttle disaster back in the early 2000s, the Port Isabella Causeway. I mean, events that are man-made that we have to deal with. So I got great faith in our ability to take care of these issues. The Lieutenant Governor, who anytime I'm out of the state, who I've got great faith, and we've got a wonderful working relationship, and he knows how this process works as well. Yes, sir.
Can you tell us, do you anticipate any trouble getting federal assistance like FEMA?
No, I think FEMA is going to be in place here by the end of the day. From the standpoint of just being in place, we'll start seeing their tracks probably tomorrow. So I full well expect the the federal government to come in to do their part. We always construct these events after the fact, and there'll be places and things that both we at the local level and at the federal level could do better. Certainly will. We don't mind pointing those out in a constructive way, not to be criticizing for the sake of criticizing, but to be making critiques so that we do it better the next time. Dave, I think I heard you.
Yes, sir. Governor, I know this is not one of your top priorities, but you've also done an important presidential debate.
Right.
Do you feel adequately prepared, and how do you think you're going to do?
We'll deal with that as it shows up. I'm substantially more concerned about making sure Texans are being taken care of. The answers they're looking for are with our emergency response and saving people's lives, and hopefully as many homes and possessions as we can. That's what people are really they're focused on that.
Governor, you mentioned yesterday about the possibility of bringing some guys down from Fort Hood.
Right.
Any thoughts about doing the National Guard because the firefighters that are working now
Right.
stretch thin?
Yeah, actually, the chiefs that are standing here behind me, we talked about that this morning. What are some of the other assets that are available that we can move quickly? One of the problems that we've historically had when we're making requests for federal assets, and I'm talking about DOD in particular, is there's just a lot of bureaucracy there, and we need to continue to have a conversation with how do we break that down. I mean, we needed, and we still probably do, need heavy equipment. When I'm talking about heavy equipment, I'm talking about D6, D7, D8 type Caterpillar with blades, motor graders. Those are the types of equipment to cut roads into where these fires are. And again, it's more difficult than it should be to get those types of assets freed up by the federal government, and it's one of the things that we need to continue to work on as a country. To when you got people hurting, when you got lives in danger in particular, I really don't care who the asset belongs to. If it's sitting on some yard somewhere and not helping be part of the solution, that's a problem.
What about the Guard?
Again, our Adjutant General is full well engaged with NIM, and when and where those individuals can be of assistance, they will be. Listen, thank you all for coming out and engaging with us today. Senator, thank you.
Chief. Thank you, sir.